Exarilla Radley shivered from her dip in the ocean and stood in the wet sand as she shook herself off. She took a few steps further up the deep white sandy slope to where she had dropped her colorful beach towel, snapped it in the wind, and began drying herself off. She squeezed water out of her long black hair and shook it around herself as she looked up at the only home she had ever known. Spanish red tiles made up its many-tiered roof. A soft peach pastel colored the stucco exterior walls. Lush landscaping that incorporated palms and other tropical plants made her home look as though it belonged in the tropics, instead of Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Everything about the house was invitingly warm, and Exarilla smiled. She loved her home, and was glad that it stood magnificent and strong against all storms. And it did. Nothing could touch it, because her mother, a powerful white witch, had enacted a protection spell right into its frame when it was being built. Her life was taking a turn, and it should feel exciting, but something was missing. She knew it, but wasn't sure just what that something was. Her days at UNC at Wilmington were over. How had it passed so quickly? Summer days were ahead, and she sighed with a mixture of excited anticipation for the future and melancholy as she let go of the past. Yep, X told herself, too soon she would leave everything familiar and safe and head for New York to do her graduate work at Columbia. That in itself was a major deal. She had always been a homebody. Now here she was, going off and away to, of all places, New York City. As she picked up her clogs and headed up the sandy slope for the long wide aisle of private boardwalk that led to the upper deck of her home, she suddenly stopped and listened. She amped up the volume but could not quite hear the words, though she heard the tone. Something was wrong. She could feel a power sweeping into the house, and it was like a dark wave, threatening and determined. Something dangerous had invaded. She closed her eyes. It was her father, and he wasn't alone. Galen Debin was with him. X's hands went to her head as her mother's voice boomed with distress. "Don't come in here, Exarilla." No other person would hear her mother, not even her father. For hers and her mother's link was that of mother and daughter. No other could tap into their private link with any kind of magic, not even hard, dark magic. Exarilla didn't listen, and her mother sensed it at once as her steps brought her closer, and once again her mom shouted in her head, "Don't come in here. Get in your car and just go." This time her mom sounded desperate. Exarilla sighed heavily. She wasn't afraid of her father. He would never hurt her, and why her mother had fixated on the belief that he would was beyond her understanding. Even though her parents were separated, she knew her mom still loved her dad, and that he adored her mom. The only thing standing between her parents was the dark magic he had enswathed himself with these last few years. She ignored her mother's command and skipped up the double set of plank stairs to their large deck, went and slid the glass doors open and stepped inside. "Mom?" she said out loud, because she could see from her mother's stance and the scowl covering her mother's lovely face that she was extremely annoyed. Galen, with that ever-present and arrogant smirk on his too pretty face, stood next to her father, who had taken a step towards her with a warm and encompassing smile. She tried to lighten the mood with a bright tone. "Hi, Dad. What's up?" However, she saw what humans couldn't see, the black aura surrounding not only Galen Debin, but now more than ever before, her father was engulfed with the dark aura of tainted magic. She frowned. A hint of darkness had always edged the bright mystique that had been his in his early days, but she knew this meant he was giving in to his dark side. He had been immersing himself in black magic for years, and although she didn't want to admit it, she could see that her mother was correct. Very little white light still glittered in his aura, scarcely a spark. When it came to her father, Exarilla was conflicted. She knew what he was, a dark warlock. She knew the rumors surrounding his father's coven. She knew that would forever keep her parents apart. And now, would it come between them as well?
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.